welcome to this ET Now special. I'm Nayantara coming to you from Goa. It's a big day for Royal Enfield. The much anticipated 650cc twin bikes have finally been launched. They're behind me, the Interceptor and the Continental. There's literally a lot riding on them. Why is that the case? Let's find out in my interview with Siddhartha Lal. Well, here's the promised interview with Siddhartha Lal. Thanks so much for joining us here in ET Now. A big day for you, the launch of the 650 twins. We've been hearing about it for a while. Big day?
Huge day. I mean, it's probably the biggest day in my life. I don't know, at least as far as work is concerned. So yeah, it's a really big day. We've been working up to this for a very long time. It's been nearly a decade in the mind. It's been 5 years since we started working on it and 4 years since we started engineering these lovely new motorcycles. Yeah, so it's a huge day for us.
So I'm going to begin with the Interceptor, since this is the one in front of us at the moment. What's cool about it? Like, what's different about it? Like, what's the main selling point?
Firstly, the whole idea is of the Interceptor starts in the 60s.
Okay.
That's when when Royal Enfield first came out with the Interceptor, and it was a big, powerful motorcycle in its day. It was a 750cc, and it was, in fact, it was mainly exported to the west coast of the US. And in the 60s, it was the entire surfing vibe, sand, sun. That was the entire idea, and the people loved it there because it was powerful, it was lovely, it was a great bike. And really, after that, Royal Enfield in the UK died, and 10 years ago, 7-8 years ago, we got the idea that let's revive this, this gorgeous idea of motorcycling, which was...
That was your brain, that was your work.
It was not really, these things happen to be more collective. I mean, somebody says something and then it all sort of starts
falls
bubbling
together.
up. Over the years, it starts bubbling up, and that's what happened. And what we said is that what we want is for the millions of chaps who are now riding our Royal Enfield 350s and 500s, and we talk to them, we ride with them all the time, and a lot of them just exactly love our 350s. That's what they want. A lot of them are saying, look, we want something a bit more, we want something a bit different, we want something, just different from what it is, and a step up. And it's for those people. It's for our 350, our 3.5 million Royal Enfield riders on the road today who are clamoring for something more. We said we're going to not go down, because the market in India is all down. So below 350, it's 250, 150, all of that. We said we're actually going to go up.
So are you creating a new market?
Absolutely. The market for above 500cc bikes in India is tiny. It's like just over 10,000 motorcycles in a market of 20 million, right? And these are a bit exotic, super expensive motorcycles, all of that. And we don't want to be in that space. We want something which is great fun, and this is great fun, and it's accessible. It's a blast, and that was the idea, to make something which is an absolute blast, but it's but it's accessible for all of our riders who've been riding our 350cc motorcycles.
Why did it take 10 years?
We didn't actually take 10 years. The first glimmer of an idea came 10 years ago, but we didn't have the capability and understanding of how to make such a bike 10 years ago either. We didn't.
So you were thinking about it even before you were able to completely revive Royal Enfield?
Hey, we always think about things. Now, I'm thinking about things for 10 years from now. Some things don't happen, right?
Yeah.
And something takes some time. In fact, what happened was, in 2013, we came out with the Continental GT 535.
Okay.
Right? So that was all part of the plan, but the 535 was the first idea. So there we really did the chassis. It was a beautiful handling motorcycle, but we didn't have the understanding, capability to put together a beautiful new twin-cylinder motorcycle like we have now on these motorcycles. So that part took us a lot more time to get our heads around. And you form teams, you understand, and so that's why we're here now with these lovely motorcycles.
So we've talked about the Interceptor. Let's go ahead towards the Continental now. This is also 650. What's the main difference between the two of them?
So the way we've engineered these motorcycles is that the rolling chassis, if you think about it, is identical. And it's not just identical between these two motorcycles. These motorcycles are the same motorcycles that are going to be sold every single market in the world, bar none. So there is no change to any specification. That's basically because we wanted to give a single specification so that our testing, our validation, everything is done on one type of motorcycle, right? So this is basically the same motorcycle as that on the rolling chassis. What's different is two things. The styling. So you have a tank which is different, you have a seat which is different, you have a handlebar different, and the ergonomics. So when you're riding it, on this motorcycle, you're actually sort of perched down a bit.
Okay.
The feet are further back, and the seat pushes you a bit further forward. So your weight is actually further forward on this bike than on the Interceptor. And what that does, and we were in California recently riding with all the people, what that does is on very twisty roads, it feels extremely natural, this motorcycle, because it's more of a sporty style motorcycle, right? So it's like on a circuit or something like that.
Yeah.
If you can think about it, it's very easy to sort of maneuver this way versus that one, which is a bit more sort of roadster.
Would that be
style,
more for cities or something?
Yeah, it's all purpose really. The Interceptor is all purpose. It's a bit more roadster. It does everything, wonderfully. So yeah, this one is a bit more committed than the Interceptor for sure.
How important are these going to be for Royal Enfield as a company?
So these are super, super, super important for Royal Enfield as a company. It's probably the most important thing. Why? Because for us, our first renaissance or the first huge growth came from our classic 350, right? And that started this revolution, and people sort of came to us in droves. We were selling 50,000 motorcycles in 2010, and last year we sold over 800,000 motorcycles. That's on the back of that classic motorcycle. But what's happened is that was all an India story.
Yeah.
So now, of course, there are two parts to it, this motorcycle. One is we have these 3.5 million riders of Royal Enfield who are out there in India, and they want something more, so this is for them. But equally importantly, and from an ambition point of view, maybe even more importantly, in the next 10, 15 years, our ambition is to be an absolute global brand. And I don't know any global consumer brand, certainly not a premium global consumer brand which has come out of India, and that's really our ambition. And this is going to be the ticket for us to get to that ambition. What the classic 350 did in India, the twins should do, and that's our plan, will do for us in markets around the world. And we're already seeing that. We launched them in California. We've had the best reviews. I mean, we've had reviews better than I could have imagined from riders who were so professional. They've been riding for 25 years. They've been on the race circuits. They've been all of that. So from those kind of people. So and we were in Eicher this month, which is the biggest motor show in the world. And again, people are they love this motorcycle. They think it's just very timely because it's not these huge big motorcycles which are super expensive, all of that. This is just absolutely right for the times. It's pared back. It's naked. It's, it doesn't have all those fairings and all of that. And I mean, and it's a classic style, right? It's a traditional style. And people like that. I mean, we've always been like that, but these days people tend to like that a lot more. Yeah.
I'm going to put in a spot. You have to choose one of them. Which one do you like more?
Well, like I said...
I can't say, oh, this is for a different purpose.
No. I'll give you an answer. I'll give you a proper answer. The thing is, in 2013, we launched the Continental GT with a single cylinder engine.
Yeah, you were saying.
So I've owned and ridden a Continental GT for many years now. So while I love this style of motorcycling, I'd have to go for the Interceptor because I've never had an Interceptor in my life. So yeah, so that's... And honestly, in the end of the day, for me, I
sounds quite funny when you say that, right? Like you own this fancy company and you say, hey, I'm going to take this because I need it in my garage. But
that's how it works, I mean, I normally only just have one motorcycle in my garage at any time. I don't have like 20.
Really?
Yeah.
Which one do you have these days?
These days, I have a classic 500 in London, which is designed by Philip Colbert. So we do a lot of work on art and all of that. So it's got these lobsters all over the motorcycle. It's got these red lobsters, a black motorcycle with the red lobsters all over, and it's just great. It's absolutely great, yeah.
Okay. So now, tell me something. You said this is very important for Royal Enfield to go global, the first such company from India and things like that. You've had bookings already? Like, what's the response been like?
So
pre-bookings?
We're officially not taking bookings yet.
Okay.
But we've had a giant amount of interest. So from markets around the world, we've had a giant amount of interest. The number of people calling into our dealers, calling in, it's been insane. And really the reviews have been outstanding. Some of the reviews are like, okay, this is like a near perfect motorcycle. And these are from chaps who weren't planning to get impressed with these motorcycles when they came in, because they said, Royal Enfield is a vintage, slow motorcycle. I'm talking about Indian journalists and global journalists. So it's
a game changer.
Reading that, people are just like, oh my God, okay, we got to try it. So even at EICMA, we had a little test ride area, just in that big, huge stall area. And we had thousands of people lining up to ride these motorcycles. So that's the kind of interest we're generating. We've got, in India we have 860 dealers approximately, and all exclusive dealers. In the rest of the world, we have around 550 dealers, out of which around 40 are exclusive Royal Enfield dealers. The rest are multi-brand. Now we're getting interest from. Earlier it was, we had to like really convince the dealer, okay, please keep our motorcycles, and we had to like sort of, and then we got good dealers, but maybe not the dealer in the right location or the best dealer in town. Now it's just turning, like it happened in India in 2010-11, when from really trying to convince a dealer we were going the other way. Now it's turning. So now dealers are calling, dealers are lining up. They're saying, shit, we better get the Royal Enfield franchise in our city before they go to someone else.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening. The whole tide is turning now, and
we have to take a short commercial break, Sid. But before we do that, I'm going to give you an opportunity to talk to the viewers and all of those who might be thinking about the bikes. Any one key feature you want to talk about when it comes to these two bikes?
What really comes together is that
the power.
It just works as a whole. The motorcycle just does the job that it's supposed to do, and it's sublime. It reacts to you exactly the way you want to. But the most important thing for me is not just the power, it's the power delivery. So the throttle response is sublime. We've had people from around the world saying, when you grip the throttle, you get a beautiful buttery response. It's just like it talks back to you. It does exactly what you want it to do.
Okay, with that, we're going to take a short commercial break. You're watching this ET Now special from Goa. Welcome back. You're watching this ET Now special. I'm Nayantara Rai in conversation with Siddhartha Lal in Goa at the Royal Enfield Cafe and Store. Siddhartha, we've talked about the new bikes that you're launching. Yeah. I want to now talk to you about business at large. I don't know whether it was lucky or by design. The strike ended a day before the launch.
It was certainly not by design.
But it's a big coincidence.
Well, it's not a coincidence that way. I mean, we've been working towards it for a long time to end the strike. It didn't happen before our board meeting. I would have preferred to have it before, before our board met to tell them. But yeah, it's really good that we've been able to work with our colleagues who were on strike and get them back in. And yeah, it's these are tough things for a company because it's a new plant, relatively new plant, and we've had amazing relationships. But these things happen, and I think we've been extremely good. We worked very closely with the striking employees. We've been extremely fair, and we've taken them back exactly in the right conditions. So it's good. I'm glad we're back.
Is it going to pay a dampener sorts for what you may have planned for the launch, the rollout of the new bikes?
Oh, not at all. The strike has zero effect on the Interceptor and the Continental GT.
Okay.
So it has no effect. What it does have effect on is that we've lost production of around 28,000 motorcycles.
800 units a day, right?
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah.
So around the first few days it was much more actually because the whole plant was shut.
Yeah.
So give or take 28,000 motorcycles we've lost from our production target of, let's say, 950,000 this year. So it's significant.
That's been revised downwards by 25,000
That's
units.
28 actually.
28,
that's the number that we look at. But that's give or take. I mean, we'll try and make up some of it, etc. But that's where we're sort of landing at, yeah.
But it's been a tough couple of months. You've had the strike, you've had the all trucker strike, you've had Kerala floods.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's happened is that, in the last many years, any such blip, I'm not talking about the strike part, which is the production side, but any other such market blip has been absorbed by Royal Enfield, right? What's happened is that we had a huge order book, which used to go down to months. So if one state, for example, had a problem, we just divert the motorcycles to a different state, and there were people waiting there for the motorcycles. That's changed now. Now that order book is not as deep as it used to be because we've made bikes available so much more, and we have, we've gone from a capacity of 5,000 to 75,000 a month. So as a result, what's happened is these things have started affecting us a little bit now. We've become a normal company rather than that company which, wasn't affected by anything, which is fine. We've been working up towards this day. It's absolutely fine. This is our new normal. And it's great because now it gives us, in fact, more energy to sort of go and create desire for our motorcycles, which is what we do on a daily basis. We do things like this, which is lovely stores, our garage cafe, which you've seen out here, these are the kind of things that we love to do, which is because we're not a hard sell company. We're not a company which is going out and, you know, convincing people and saying, look, here's a discount and here's this. That's not how we do.
That's for enthusiasts and those who want to become.
Exactly. So we want to create something gorgeous. We want to create a world of Royal Enfield which they love. We have, you know, all this beautiful gear, and you wouldn't even know some of this is highly protective gear. Like these shoes are highly protective shoes, right? And this you can insert the best protective wear those things. So this has got protective gear in it. Now, what I'm trying to say is that what we're creating is what we've understood people want. It's not just what is there in motorcycling. In India, when we first came out with heavy protective gear, no one bought it because no one's, you know, firstly you're just buying a t-shirt and jeans riding, right? So then we figured a young guy today, he wants one jacket. He's not going to buy like 7 jackets, right? And that one jacket should be something that you feel like you want to wear on a daily basis. If you see something like this, it's, you know, it's really,
you can wear
really
even when you're
nice,
not riding. Yeah.
But if you can insert what do you call it, armor into it and use it like that, then it works for your motorcycling and for your casual wear. Yeah. So that's what we've discovered about Indian consumers, and that's what we're sort of catering to. And so if you see all of this, it's evolved out of all of these minuscule understandings that we've been able to bring out, and stores like this, which, you know, of course in Goa you see this and you're like, wow, whatever, nice and all of that.
You have it in New Delhi too.
Yeah, but the point is, in fact, we started in Delhi, we started in big places, but now you go into towns which I've never heard of, you've never heard of. They're tiny little towns, and we have gorgeous stores, and these stores are not, we have an architectural team, we have a projects team in Royal Enfield who's making these stores in all these towns.
So you have 800 plus dealers in India. You know, can you share with us how many of them might be opening stores like this?
We have been adding around 25 stores a quarter, you know, 100 stores a year. That's been our sort of pace. What's happened is now, earlier we were sort of filling up the A+, A, B cities. That's by and large over. Now there's just one-off replacements or one new area which opens up. But basically, we're now going to really small towns in India. That's been our focus over the last year or two, yeah.
I want to just talk a little bit about the corporates and the shareholders that might be watching you and things like that. You know, so your share was punished 26% in the, you know, since the strike began. Then it bounced back. What's the big message you want to give to your shareholders?
So firstly, there was a general trend. I imagine it was it automotive or was it across the board in India where
you were punished far more, yeah.
Far more, was it?
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was similar, but okay, we were maybe a bit more. I mean, what we tell our investors always is, and really that's a fact, is that Royal Enfield, if you're buying into Royal Enfield, if you're holding Royal Enfield, do it only if you're a long-term investor. I mean, I have no idea and I have no understanding about short-term movements, and honestly, I don't even care, right? So, you know, a little bit up, a little bit down on a...
Do you check your share price every day?
No, absolutely not. I have no intention to do that. I do once in a while, but certainly not every day. It's a long-term game for Eicher Motors, for Royal Enfield, because our entire orientation is towards the long term. What we're doing now, we don't take short-term, we don't care, I mean, okay, in this quarter, you know, I could push a bit more. We don't do all that game. So we're not in that game of, you know, pushing the inventory in the channel, then finding ways to move it out, discounting. That's a mug's game as far as I'm concerned. It just takes organizational focus to the wrong place. What we're doing is creating desire, creating demand, creating beautiful things, creating an amazing ecosystem around our motorcycles. That's what we're doing. And now what we're doing is we've got our eyes on the big prize, which is a global brand, and that's a huge prize.
Inorganic growth?
That's still 5, 10, 15 years out.
You also talked about how, you know, the auto sector is going through a slightly difficult time in India at the moment. The auto sales have come down. You also, of course, Royal Enfield is a niche brand, but there's Eicher Motors and things like that. Is that correct? Would you say that, or is it a temporary phenomenon? Is it because there's no liquidity in the system? It's difficult to get car loans, auto loans?
I don't know about cars at all, honestly, and trucks is doing pretty well. That's where we're sort of involved. It's continuing to grow, and motorcycles, the market's been a bit tepid. We've also sort of had a couple of months of tepidness, but it doesn't affect me. I mean, you know, we're...
You're a long-term player.
Yeah, I mean, this is all normal stuff. I mean, you're not going to remember this, you know, 2% down, 4% up 5 years from now, what you're going to remember is, okay, this company's come such a long way and now is going that very long way. So really, when you look at it from a 30-year lens, these little things will always sort of be on the side. It's the big stuff which will come up, right?
So you said you're a long-term player. You don't go quarter by quarter. You may be thinking of things 10 years from now. You said that before the commercial break. Where will Royal Enfield be 10 years from now?
Well, I can't say exactly, but
I'm not going to hold you to it.
I'll tell you where I intend it
Yeah,
to be.
your vision. Basically, I'm trying to get an idea of your vision.
15 years is to be a truly global brand of motorcycles, which has disrupted motorcycling. It's not just, okay, be a global brand, because we see the space. We see that there's a huge space in the mid-size motorcycle market in the world, which is quite vacant, especially for evocative, modern classic style motorcycles like we have, right? There's nothing there. And there's a market, people are dying for it, but for some reason nobody's able to serve it. So the market for mid-size motorcycles in the world is around 1.5 million. Okay? The overall market for motorcycles in the world is around 50 million. 1.5 million is a mid-size, another million is big motorcycles. But out of that 1.5 million, 800,000 is us.
Okay.
So we are half the market of mid-size motorcycles in the world only on the back of India. So what I'm trying to say is that this market of 1.5 million, in my opinion, in the next 10-15 years could be 5-10 million motorcycles. And we could be the ones who drive that growth from 1.5 million motorcycles globally today of the mid-size market to 5-10 million, and that's the pie out there. And we want to do that in markets around the world.
Now, I want to get a sense from you on this. Do you see petrol, diesel going out and electric vehicles being the vogue anytime soon?
Well, I think there's a future for EV for sure. But I think especially in motorcycles, there is, it's not binary. So it's not like EV will come in, petrol will go out. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think for decades to come, there's going to be some level of overlap. In any case, motorcycles are a bit of a laggard as far as EV is concerned compared to cars or even compared to buses and commercial vehicles, because batteries are very heavy, they take space, and they're super expensive from a power to weight ratio. So it doesn't yet work economically for motorcycles. So it will take time. They'll come. But they'll first come in commuter segments where you don't need so much range, in cities and scooters and all of that. And they may come through regulation. So in regulation, they might say, okay, well, in a certain part of a city, we don't allow, internal combustion engine and all of that. So all that may happen. But I think it's a matter of a couple of decades, actually, that that some transition will happen, that EVs will start gaining in segments where EV has a more natural advantage, right? Yeah. So in inner city or in maybe extreme off-road also, because there's huge torque, and in off-road you don't need that much range. So that kind of stuff. So we will see EV, and but these guys are here to stay for, I would say,
obviously,
for a couple of decades to come, for sure.
And with that, all the very best, and many thanks for giving us this interview.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Thanks.